In this episode, we are going to talk about the power of words. I feel like understanding how important words are, not just to ourselves, but to those around us, and how that can shape our reality, and the emotional stability and self awareness that that offers is priceless. And I talk about these things because I apply them in my life. So I use myself as an experiment to, go on this journey within, because many of us are hearing of this journey within, this self-discovery, whereas I do these things within my life and then I talk about them. And I think that that's something that's really great that we can connect with, because when we see what someone else has gone through in their life and we can take pieces of what works for them and try and apply it into ours, it helps us grow. And it helps us grow in more of a relatable way that we can create something that will work for us. So that's why I do this. That's why I talk about the things that I talk about in the previous episodes as well. Everything is about personal growth, but I apply it in my life to help you in yours. And when it comes to words, it's really important to understand the power that words possess. Because for many of us, we use words to self sabotage. We create this language within our mind that puts us down, that holds us back, that tells us that we're not good enough and that we can't do things. We use this language to beat ourselves up as a defense mechanism, because being kind to ourselves is, I guess, difficult for most of us because we don't talk about how we feel. So kindness is something that we don't practice because it's easier to self-sabotage, because it's something that we have practiced for quite some time. But we got to talk about that. And I know that anything we practice, we get good at, but we can break these patterns, habits, and behaviors that are detrimental for our personal growth and detrimental for our well-being by practicing something new. And in the beginning, it's never easy. I'm always honest. That's why this podcast is called Real Talk for an Unreal World. But it's important to be honest with ourselves, because practicing new ways of evolving or learning about ourselves is often difficult, because we're trying something new, and anything that we try new, it comes with difficulty to figure out how to get better at it. But just like walking and talking when we're young, we learn by falling down and getting back up again, and falling down and getting back up again. So just like using a language to be kind to yourself, you will not implement that always as much as you should in the beginning because you're out of practice. But just keep moving forward, and the application of how you speak to yourself will just become normal. And that is such an amazing thing when you start to see and catch yourself. Before you put yourself down, you kind of lift yourself up and say, that's okay. I'll learn from the next one. And it's important to kind of see how words are applied in our lives. So when we talk about being kind to ourselves, or I call it using a love language to understand ourselves, we have an opportunity to see where our thoughts are at. So it's really important. That puts you in the present moment when you're observing your thoughts and you're seeing how you're hard on yourself. And when we're hard on ourselves, that's just an opportunity for us to be better. So using this love language as a way to implement a positive within a negative. So whereas the mind has been trained to say something detrimental about you, about an experience or a situation that has just transpired, and you take that out on yourself, you can then become aware of that and allow that thought process to happen, but then come in with the love language after you've expressed these feelings of detriment towards yourself, and remind yourself that you're only human and that you make mistakes, and that it's okay to love yourself, and that it's okay to be kind to yourself, and that you don't always have to say that you hate yourself, or that you're dumb, or that you're stupid. Because these are words that we use so common when we're referring to ourselves within situations where we didn't like the outcome. We attack ourselves with these words that carry an immense vibrational frequency. Even if they're thoughts in your mind, those thoughts create feelings, and feelings are created from a vibrational frequency. Now, feelings that are created out of, shame, regret, guilt, these are low vibrational feelings, and they store deep inside of a body if they're not processed and transmuted. So that's a way to kind of see how emotions are working for you. And you are the creator of those emotions by how you think. So it's really important to understand your power that you have to create your reality around you and to create the vibrational frequency within your body. It's, that's the emotional body communicating with you. You are creating that. So if you're feeling low and down and tired all the time, take a look at the words you use to talk to yourself. That's something we should be taught in school, but we weren't. And we end up, navigating life, not talking about how we feel. And we create these own feelings within ourselves because we're not sharing about these dense energies or these emotions that carry low vibrational frequencies. We're not talking about that with other people. So we carry it. And that slows us down and it breaks us down. And it causes depression and it causes anxiety and it causes stress and sadness and all of these things that hold us back from vibrating at our highest frequency, which is love. So we have an opportunity to see how that takes place. And we have an opportunity also to apply love into our lives in areas where we've been negative to ourselves for quite some time, because there's no right or wrong. Like, everything is right where it's meant to be because our choices have given us consequences to put us in the place that we are. So there's no blame or victim mentality of where you are at in your life. It's just more of an opportunity to see where you can go and who you want to be and get to know who you are. That's really important, to get to know who you are. And that's kind of why I started doing this whole thing, is after 23 years of being a drug addict, you you create an identity that is just not of love. It's filled with learned behaviors, emotional traumas, unprocessed emotions, and you end up using things externally from you to distract from a feeling on the inside. And I know very well that that does not work. And one of the ways that I found to live in this place of love was to communicate about how I was feeling with myself first and then to others. And when I was learning about how to communicate about how I was feeling with myself, I changed the way I was speaking to myself, because I knew that life was happening for me, not to me. I no longer needed to be held in a blame and victim mentality. If a difficult situation occurred in my life, I just looked at it as education. I had to be accountable for what took place within that experience. What was my role in the experience, and where could have I been better? Rather than beat myself up, I don't do that anymore. I just look at it as education for me to apply to the next experience, because carrying around shame, regret, and guilt and emotions like this got me nowhere. That didn't mean that they weren't valid to feel them, because they were just trying to teach me about areas where I could be better in my life and become more self-aware of the choices I was going to make that would lead me to more positive consequences. And that's something we got to understand, that we have the power to do. And this is all about taking the power back into your life. So when we use a love language to communicate with ourselves in this life, it changes everything. It creates a new mindset. And with a new mindset, you can achieve anything. I mean, society told me that 0.01% of people come out of the situation I was in within addiction and mental health and the behaviors and patterns that were detrimental to my personal growth. And basically what that meant to me was that it can be done. And I'm grateful to be one of the 0.01% of people, but also I chose to use my life as an example to say, hey, like, I was homeless 4 years ago. I had no idea who I was. I had nothing in this life in terms of career or finance or any materialism whatsoever. And here we are 4 years later. And the thing that I am most proud of is that I love myself and that I understand what love for self means. And I understand how to use those tools in my life to help me grow every day, because this journey is not easy and it's not meant to be, because things that are difficult teach us really wonderful lessons. It's hard for us to see it at the time because of the difficulty. But if we can change our perspective and see how life happens for us, we can change the language we use to have for life and for ourself and our place within it. We're just students. We've come here to learn and grow. So allowing, emotions to be dictated through avenues of financial gain or financial loss is something that you possess the power to apply into your life. And for me, I just see that, money comes, money goes. I've had nothing in my life and I made it through. So I was lived on the street for years. So I know that it can be done. And that's not for everyone. I'm not saying that, but I am trying to be an example of, perseverance, of understanding, of the fear of the unknown. Like you don't have to be afraid of things that haven't happened. You have the power to create your reality. So relinquishing the fear of the unknown, a lot of people spend a lot of the time in their mind, worrying about things that haven't happened yet. And that's where a lot of their energy goes. And I want you to become aware of that. What sort of thoughts you're creating throughout your day. If you're afraid of things that haven't even happened, how are you affecting the present moment? Where is your conversation with yourself happening with the things you're doing in the moment? They're missed because you're in the past or you're in the future. We really have to take a look at where the conversation is happening within our mind. If we think from our heart, which we have to practice how to do, but if we think from our heart, it will always lead us to the truth. And I think that that's really important when we're talking about that. It's where language comes from. It's the love language. It's the avenue of this place to really remind yourself, like, you're not less and you're not more. Every single human being has immense, wonderful qualities to them. But if we hold ourselves in these negative states, we never really actually see our true potential and really step into our power, because I'm not special. I'm not unique. I'm just like everybody else. And I know what it's like to beat yourself up. When I lost my kids due to my addiction, the language that I used for myself was very, very toxic. And you don't have to lose your kids to really be in a situation to have a toxic language towards yourself, but you understand what I'm talking about. Whatever situation we want to use to be toxic towards ourselves just holds us in a place where it's very difficult to find the love for self, because we choose to live in the negatives and not see the positives, because with everything there's a positive. Once I created a new mindset and a new language for myself, I knew that the loss of my children was due to the consequences of my choices. And I accepted that. So in that moment, I had an opportunity to continue with feeling the loss of my children and holding myself in this negative state that would never allow me to grow to a point where I could be close to them again. Or I could choose to change my mindset, change the language towards myself, and change my thoughts and my feelings so that I could better affect a positive outcome of the life that I wanted to create. And that's what I did, and I'm 4 years out of that lifestyle that did not serve me. And I still don't have my kids, but I work on myself immensely every day so that when I do have that connection with them again, I'll be grateful for them to meet their dad. And that's, what we can do. That's what we have. There's no sense in worrying about the future or the past, because the future hasn't happened. And the future that I want to create is best affected in the present moment. So understanding that, like, what we think and what we feel in the moment will shape our reality for the future. And that's really important, because a lot of us do get caught up in these past and future thought processes. It's very, very common. But we have to remember to pull ourselves back into the present moment and just let go of things that are out of our control. Really see what you're trying to control that is out of your control, and ask yourself why you're doing that. And when we do that, when we ask ourselves these questions, it's a wonderful opportunity for us to navigate experiences in our life that have us feel like we need to hold on to control things. Typically that's something from your childhood, and when we're talking about our childhood, our parents were never taught self-love and self-care. They were never taught the power of words applied into their own lives. They are just the product of their experiences with their parents. And if we look at our grandparents, they certainly were not taught about the power of words and self-love and self-care in their lives. So we are the product of two generations that are experiencing this. So that actually just brings peace to a lot of our childhood, because we have to understand there's no manual for parenting, right? But if we see that our parents never had the tools and education, then we can kind of look at the traumas or the difficult experiences that we faced in our childhood with a different lens. And it's important to do that, because where we blame and victim mentality within experiences from our childhood, it doesn't allow us to grow. So we've got to see things a different way. And this is a helpful way to see your childhood as something that was out of your control and out of your parents' control, right? So by processing things in this manner, we can see how a difficult childhood actually is there to teach us to be better in our lives, to break that generational trauma. Like, that's really important to understand, that you have the power to break that generational trauma within your life. And you just do that by really accepting the realities of life and accepting that this way that we're being brought up within families consisting of two individuals, or sometimes one individual, is just one perspective of life, which is why we really struggle to tap into new ways to see our life as opportunities to grow and think outside the box, and see ourselves in a totally different way, is because we've just really only known one way of life when it comes to learned behaviors, when it comes to information, when it comes to, understanding love, because we witness that within our families. So it's important to see that and ask yourself, like, what do these things mean to you? And that's what I did in my life. Like, what did love mean to me? I had no idea. That doesn't mean that my parents didn't show me love, because they tried to, and they did. They did do a great job of it in some areas. But in other areas, they didn't have the tools and the education to really teach me about love. So obviously, that education was never applied into my life, and I ended up reaching for substances externally from me to mask feelings that were uncomfortable on the inside of me. And I didn't have tools and education on how to process them and communicate about them, so it led to a very difficult life. Now, for some, that can just be through abandonment or neglect, or the ability to not be seen and not be heard. And these are really important things to understand in your life. If you're not being seen and not being heard, the language that you use in your own life is very detrimental, because you end up wanting to be seen and wanting to be heard and understanding what love is, because we feel like we've never received it from another. But understanding that we can curate this love within ourselves is really a new conversation that we can have to let go of the past. And that's really important, to be able to see that and say, okay, I can see my place in my childhood and how that didn't work out for me. And honestly, when you're able to do this, you can really let go of very difficult situations, which you'll find gratitude within for teaching you something beautiful. And I know that may be very difficult for some of you to conceive in the beginning, but 23 years within drug addiction, you incur immense amount of emotional traumas. And I am grateful for every bit of that life today, because it brought me to where I am. I saw through all that darkness the beauty of life. And I was shown that because I was able to understand the darkness or the difficulties of life. That's what had me appreciate the beauty and seeing the beauty within all of its difficulties. Because my life still is wonderful today, but it's not always easy. It's very difficult at times. But I find beauty in the difficulties because it teaches me to trust in something more, specifically myself. There is a Japanese scientist named Masaru Emoto. I hope I did not get that wrong, but I will put the link below in the description of this video. This gentleman is a man who has done a test using rice. And what he did was he put rice in water, and he put one bottle in one room and another bottle in another room. And for the one bottle of rice, he would go into that room each day and he would say nice, kind things to that bottle. Just speak to the bottle. Nothing else was in the room. So basically, he was just giving vibrational frequency from within to the organic matter, which was contained within the glass bottle, the rice and the water. He did the same thing for the other bottle, but he used very negative words. What he found was just remarkable from my perspective. The bottle of rice water that he spoke kind words to fermented beautifully. It translated to just be this really wonderful thing. And the bottle of rice that was in the separate room that he spoke very negative things to began to rot. And to me, what that says is that the words and the vibrations that we create can affect organic matter in a way that it can feel what we are delivering through the air. So what we are speaking and what we are saying to ourselves and to others has a direct translation of how it's going to affect the organic matter that houses the light within us, which is this vessel. So we can use words that can have us break ourselves down and rot, essentially, become very negative, become very dark, become very unhealthy. Or we have the power to use words that can be very kind to ourselves and help us grow and help us flourish. And that power is your choice to do that. And with a little bit of discipline and with a little bit of self-awareness, you can break that generational trauma or that learned behavior pattern of thinking that allows you to think that you're less and that you're not good enough. So that's just a really wonderful experiment. The other thing that I took from that experiment was think of the children. Like if you have kids and you are speaking negatively to them, you're instilling fear to them, you're, creating a toxic environment by instilling fear, really is the main thing, and speaking negatively to them, that organic matter that is their vessel, their body, will absorb those vibrations and create a feeling within it. And it'll break that body down. So, as parents, we've never really had more of an opportunity to become self-aware as to what the power of our words is creating for our children. I mean, no parent would ever want to hurt their child, but sometimes we get really frustrated. A lot of parents are single parents these days, and with the cost of living and the demand for us to work more and more is becoming more common these days. So our emotional balance is really imbalanced, and we usually end up hurting the people we love, especially children, because we lose our patience very quickly. They have high energy, and our energy is very low energy because of the low vibrational states that we put ourselves in. And children are still closer to love than we are because they still have that connection. They haven't been corrupted by the negativity and the behaviors of the world that are unacceptable. But we condition these children with this negative connotation that we use towards them, these negative vibrational frequencies that we send to them to lower them down, to put them in a fear state, because that's the state that we find ourselves in. And that's something to become very, very aware of in your life. Are we creating an environment that is unhealthy for our children, but is very normal and common to us? Because we are in a low vibrational state, we then put the people around us in a low vibrational state, just because it's easier for us to work within that environment. But what are we teaching the children? What are we obstructing within them? And that's all done through the power of words, right? So that's really important to see what you're creating outside of yourself could be debilitating this pure thing of love within you. And really, to be honest with you, to catch that, just be honest with your children about the things that you're carrying. Just when you're frustrated, when you're angry, talk about things. Communication is such a beautiful thing that we all possess, but speaking our truth is something that we don't practice. So we end up hiding, and we end up having conversations within our own mind, within our own heart, that are not good for us because we can't speak our truth, or we choose not to. And it's very important to understand the words can't and choose. If you tell yourself you can't do something, you will believe that you can't do it. But if you choose not to, then that offers you an ability to make another choice to choose to do something, even though it's difficult. And if you're a parent, you're an example for these children of what they can become in this life. If your parents never spoke their truth, which for most of us is very, very common, which is why we don't do it in our own lives, you can break that. You can begin to have difficult conversations, become vulnerable. Vulnerability is the most beautiful thing because it shows authenticity. But if you're judging yourself and your fear of what your children will think of you is obstructing your truth, look at that. Look at that for what it is. I mean, it's so important for the kids to see authenticity and truth within our lives so that they can translate that within theirs, because the world is teaching them to pretend to be somebody they're not. Now, is that something we should blame on social media or cell phones? The ability to connect with people that are pretending? No, there is no blame and victim mentality. We have to become accountable in our lives to be the example for our children. I mean, that's why we had kids in the first place, was to guide them, to open all the doors and really show them that they can do anything and be anything. But that starts within. You know, many of us haven't made it to the place that we want to be in this life. It's because we thought that those things would happen externally from us. But really, if we tune ourselves in within and we understand self-love and self-care and the power of words and reflection and awareness within ourselves, that's when we really know we can do anything. And I learned that along my journey. And I'm creating just an amazing life. You know, everything that I'm doing in my life, I'm so grateful for. I've tapped into parts of, you know, information and awareness that was subconsciously stored in me that's just pure love, you know, and I'm able to share that with other people because that's all I know what to do with love. Now that I have love for myself, all I want to do is share it with the people around me. And that's how you become an example. And it wasn't easy for me. I mean, I told you I was homeless for years. I got out of jail and I was, decided to make a choice that I wasn't going to use drugs anymore. And I made that choice because I became a student of love. I changed the language I was using to see myself, and I looked at my past for what it was. Nothing more than education. Nothing more than to teach me I could choose to be somebody better. I could choose to do something different, all if I wanted to. And I know for many of us we want to, we just don't know where to begin. So talking about words is a very powerful thing when we see that this is a wonderful first step to take within our own lives. When we change that frequency within ourselves from a negative to a positive, your whole world changes because you're creating a new mindset, all with a language, you know, and it's personal. It's very personal. It's for you. And you'll be able to translate that to your children just by being an example. Actions always speak louder than words. And that's really when we can see somebody's evolution or somebody's growth is by the actions. Because when I decided to stop using drugs, I mean, I told people I was, doing something different in my life. They didn't want to hear anything about it for like a year. And then after a year of me, making choices in my life to be somebody different, they started to notice me. And many people, my family members and people that knew me, started to pay attention to the things that I was doing because they had seen a change in me by the actions I was taking in my life. And that was very, very important and very beautiful. So, it's never too late at whatever stage you're at in your life. Like, never think that you have to have it all figured out at a certain time, because time is just not over until it's over. It's just what you do with that time, right? If you stay within the same repetitive cycle each day, which is typical of the same mindset, the same conversations, the same negativity, the same toxicity, the definition of insanity is waking up every single day, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. That is insane when we're thinking along these patterns and behaviors. But we have to understand that we have the choice to break that pattern and behavior, and then we can be anything we want to be. But that is the fear of the unknown, because we've practiced this way that's very comfortable to us. It's very normal, even though it's highly detrimental to us. So we have to be able to see that. That's just self-awareness. And it's a wonderful thing to begin to see. And it's okay if it's uncomfortable, to think about doing something different that might be beneficial for you. Because honestly, it is uncomfortable to think that, because there's so many different feelings and experiences that are going to come up that we're really going to have to tap into. But one of the biggest things you can begin to do with yourself is change that language so that you can start to use that language externally from you. Because when you start speaking your truth and you start becoming authentic, all of this changes. I really feel that mental health and addiction are, they're within 80% of homes these days. 80% of homes have mental health or addiction in their immediate or extended family. And I believe that that's the result of not speaking our truth. And our truth is, inconvenient at times because we feel that it might not be valued when we use it. But you know what? You just have to take a look at the community around you to really find your place within it. If people don't value your truth, then those aren't your people. And for some, that's families. I had to step back from family members in my own life as well because I knew that I was living for my truth. And I knew that I was living for my authenticity. And I used myself as an experiment to really understand what this spiritual discovery of personal growth was all about. And I had to put myself first because I always put myself second. I was very selfish within my drug addiction, absolutely. But I was selfish within my negativity and the toxicity I wanted to live in within myself. That's where my selfishness came. But I really wanted to understand what self-love and self-care was and what this language was for self and what I could do with it. Because to me, it was something that really had me change a mindset to overcome a 23-year drug addiction. So I thought, wow, like if I can do that with just a language and a mindset, like what else can I do? Then my truth and my authenticity is going to come before anything. And I really needed to embrace that. And I want to share that with you because it's that important in your own life. We've just practiced becoming people pleasers and, putting everybody else first and being busy all the time. Like being busy all the time is not a good thing. You're teaching your brain to move very, very quickly all the time. You have got to take time for yourself to self-reflect. A lot of why we put ourselves out there so much is because we want to avoid really connecting with ourselves because immediately we attract to these uncomfortable feelings or this behavior of self-sabotage. And that awareness is okay in the beginning. It's absolutely okay. It's a requirement because it starts to show you your place within yourself. And then when you practice that behavior, you can choose to see the other side of the negativity and the toxicity because there is love and positivity right there if you choose to begin to use this language. And I just think it's so valuable to have these conversations and to really understand self-reflection and how much these vibrational frequencies really affect our well-being, right? Because if depression and anxiety do keep us in a low vibrational state, then we've got to look at how we get there. Like, what is the conversation happening within us? But then we see people that are, happy and they're light and they're just living their best life. We have to look at what gets them there. It's a language they use for themselves because they choose it. Life is not always easy for everyone living in love. And really, you'll understand that. When you begin to love yourself, you'll see that life's not always easy. But you'll love yourself right through it. And you'll love the experiences that present themselves to you because they're there to teach you. And that has you become a student of love. And these individuals that are living in this high vibrational frequency, they understand that. Life is always going to be a roller coaster. But you'll get better at stabilizing the highs and the lows. And you'll understand how you are creating the energy and experiences that you want to put yourself in. So you'll understand the consequences of what you're doing much better. And you'll value it much better. All because of the language you use for yourself and others. And I think that that's very important. So I appreciate you for listening to this podcast. If you listen to this, please, like and subscribe it if you liked this conversation. Let me know what you want to hear more of. I mean, I just go through things in my life and then I talk about them. That's all I know how to do right now is to do this because I just want to help people grow through difficulties. And I want to be that example to say, hey, it doesn't matter what you went through in this life, just talk about it. You don't have to get on a microphone or in front of a video camera or anything like that and do this. You can talk about this with your loved ones because if you can't have conversations like this with your loved ones, question what a loved one means to you. These are the people that are closest to you. So really, we need to take a look at our community and the people we have around us. And it's okay if that community is not individuals you feel like you can be yourself around, but that doesn't mean that you cannot find a community of individuals that you can be yourself around, because that's what these social media tools and these platforms are all about, is connecting with individuals that we don't know, but have the same frequency or have the same understanding that we would like to know in our lives. And I am definitely one of those individuals that's doing that. That's why I started doing this in the first place. I'm not one for popularity and, the whole money thing and marketing and doing these videos in a way that's just going to have you be on your phone all the time watching all the videos I do. I'm not about that. I just want to give you a video, a podcast episode, and just allow you to take some information from it and then spend a week applying it into your life. And then in another week, I'll put up another episode if everything goes cool in my life and life allows me to do that, so that you can connect with that information. I love the social media tools for that application, but creating content to please people and feed an appetite of ego is not something I do. So you won't get that here. I just try to be real, and I value this thing called life and being present in the moment for it. So today I'm present and I'm doing an episode, and I love creating content, and I love putting a piece of myself out there to try and help people evolve. I absolutely love that. And I feel like we all have a story on this planet. It's just getting to learn, read some of the pages in someone's life to really get to know who they are, that we can apply their experiences into our lives that help us grow. I mean, that to me is so important, that we see each other as individuals with experiences, and not people with bank accounts or titles or celebrities or these labels, or addicts, or mental health patients, or whatever it may be, these labels that society puts on us. We've got to get to know the people underneath all of that, because people are so much more than labels. And I was given so many labels throughout my life. I know all about that, and I know what it's like to be have that as a part of your identity. But I refuse to have that as a part of my identity by becoming myself and stepping out of society's box and saying, you know what, I'm not going to pretend everything's okay anymore, and I'm not going to be silent, and I'm not going to not share about how I'm feeling, because I feel that processing emotions is the thing that helps us grow. It changes the vibrational frequency we have within us. So that's everything that I talk about. The previous episodes have a lot of information in there, a lot for kids, a lot for your growth, and just different way to see different aspects of yourself. As I said, I've gone through things in my life and I share about them. So there's lots in the previous episodes as well. And, if you find any information that's useful in here that you think can help someone else, just send them the episode. You don't even have to say anything. Just possibly they'll watch it and then they'll take something from it, because I'm here for the evolution. I'm here for the evolution of mankind into love. That's what this is all about. Right now, life is very difficult because we are in the end of something. We are in the end of an egotistical era where many of us are living for greed, power, and control. And we are going to stabilize and balance this beautiful energy across this universal plane right now on planet Earth by changing the frequencies, the vibrations, and the understanding of love that we have for ourselves. So it's really important to understand that, like, you're a part of something so beautiful right now. Like, you came back to a time that is very, very difficult, but you came back to be a part of something so much more. So the little things that are going on in life that are trivial, the dramas and the toxicities that we create because we put ourselves in those things, remember, they're really small in comparison to what we've come here to do. So to be a part of the evolution of love takes place within. We don't have to put our attentions into establishments and organizations and try and disrupt that. We just change the frequency within ourselves and our reality will change. I appreciate you so much for listening to this. Really, I do. Thank you. I appreciate everyone for all the love, all the support, all the likes, all the comments. Really means so much to me, because I love to hear about things that happen in other people's lives as well. I love that. I mean, it's ways for me to get to learn about you as well. My social media is Real Talk for an Unreal World. That's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, all podcast platforms. That's the name of the podcast. That's the name of everything pretty much. My Twitter is Real Talk, the number 4 Unreal. And my email is realtalkforanunrealworld@gmail.com. I have a whole new public speaking platform that I'm putting together right now called Affliction by Addiction. And we have some really wonderful things that are happening with this within construction industries, within corporate offices, where we're being asked to come in and speak about mental health and addiction within workplaces, which is really great. I mean, this is what I've been working for 4 years, and all these beautiful doors are opening up for me. So That website's currently in the process of being built, so I'll have some new things, and there's going to be great tools in there for everyone to use. The corporate aspect of it will just allow me to create a new business where I can get in and help people on company time, which is really good because, what better way to, process some things and take some information in than on company time. And it also shows the employer that they care about the employees. And to me, that's everything, because mental health and addiction is in 80% of homes these days. So very important topic to talk about. And it's enough for us to stop pretending that everything is okay and not talking about it. This is what it needs. It needs conversations. It needs perspectives. It needs a lived experience of individuals who have traversed very difficult lives or very difficult lifestyles and found a way out. And I think that that's what inspires people the most. It's way more beneficial than academics coming in and speaking from a textbook perspective. I've found the way that I communicate versus the way academics communicates, it hits in two different ways. So I'm really grateful to be able to do things the way I do them today. And I am really grateful for my whole story because it's taught me so much about psychology and the application of emotional understanding within our lives and the benefit of that. So we're doing that as well. It's really cool. And if you feel like you'd be a cool podcast guest episode for this podcast, if the things I talk about relate to you, check out some of the guest episodes I have and send me an email, send me a message. Let me know if you want to come on the show. So I'd love for that as well. But more so, I'm just so grateful for your practice. Like this isn't about it. This isn't a me thing. This isn't about Justin. This is about you. This is about you taking this information in your life and applying it in the way that you see fit. The things that I talk about in my life is just a perspective for you to see how it possibly could inspire you to create new ideas and think of new ways that'll work for you in your life. That's everything to me. It isn't my way or any way. It's just a conversation to share perspectives for you to grow within your own life. So I'm so grateful for you. I really am. And I really want you to know that I know how hard life can be sometimes. And I know the level of difficulty it carries. And when we don't have communities and we don't have conversations, it's really difficult to get out of that mindset. But you're not alone. You're not alone. Like this way of life is extremely difficult, how divided we are. We have an opportunity to connect with ourselves first, and that'll help us connect with others. So that's a really wonderful thing for you to hold as sort of a reward or result for your practice, is the connection to self will garner you a connection to others. And that's what we're all looking for. That's what we're here to do. And I just want to really remind people of that because it's difficult when we get lost in materialism and self-sabotage that we forget what we're here to do. And we're really here to understand the power of this thing called love. So I know it's tough, but just keep going. You know what I mean? Like it ain't over till it's over. And you have every opportunity to make a change at any point in your life. I was 36 when I got out of jail homeless. So, that's cool. Like I got half my life to be able to do whatever I want with, and even if I only had a year, even if I only had a month, even if I only had a couple days, like living in those couple days of happiness and love for myself would make the whole journey worth it because I figured it out. I figured out how to love myself through all the difficulty. And I think that that's an important reminder for all of us to understand that that's what we're here to do. Much love for listening to this. And just, again, I really appreciate everyone for coming back to the planet at this time and helping us all evolve into love. Thank you.